Welcome in, Boutique Hotel Nation, for another episode. Well, actually, not another one. The first, the official. We're here, the Boutique Hotel Secrets podcast. We're live. We'll get into the whole backstory here, but thank you for tuning in today. My name is Adam Walz. I'm the co-founder of Comeback Hospitality, and again, a proud student membership member of the game of Boutique Hotel Secrets, the mastermind community. Thankfully, it's not just me here. So let me bring in my mister from another sister, Micah Thomas. Micah, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, doing very good. I am excited today because we have a very, very special guest. And I think mostly what I'm looking forward to is for people to understand what it actually takes to transition from short-term rentals to boutique hotels and some of the changes and the differences that you go through when you make the leap. We've been fortunate enough to be a part of this community that he's put together for everyone to join and learn more about boutique hotels. So, I'm ready to hop right into it.
I love it, man. So we'll bring on stage Mike Sjogren. He's the founder, of course, of Short-Term Rental Secrets. So again, podcast 5-6 years, very successful Facebook group. He's been educating in this space, seasoned investor, got a portfolio of short-term rentals, but then made the leap into boutique hotels and started educating in that space. So he's someone that's helped, probably hundreds of operators all over the country at this point make this transition from single properties into scalable hospitality assets. And again, for context for the listeners, for the last 6 months, Micah and I have been recording our journey just as two students, right? We got under LOI. What was that, Micah, back in July, something like that?
Yeah.
We signed a PSA in August. We did all of our due diligence. And by the way, we didn't want to publish kind of before we had a hotel because we didn't think we'd be credible narrators. But we're at least rookies in this new league called Boutique Hotels. So again, our commitment is to continue sharing our story, going from 0 to 1, but also to spotlight and feature other students, other coaches, other people in this space, because it is particularly intimate. There's not millions of people doing this, but I think it's very exciting. And again, thank you for tuning in for episode 1, our inaugural show. So without further ado, let's maybe flip it over. Welcome in Mike Sjogren. Thanks for being with us. And maybe we can hear a little bit about your story. Again, I think well documented from CPA into the STR world. So if people want the full story, we can post some links to the show notes. But tell us about your jump into boutique hotels. This is currently an area that you're very interested in.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is fun. This has been a long time in the making. And super proud of you guys, man. This is really cool. So, yeah, I've been in hotels now for 6 years. We got our first one back in 2020. So I got into short-term rentals as a way to escape the rat race. Long story short, I was a CPA for 10 years. And then when my son was born, he had a very rare lung disease called interstitial lung disease. And so we spent a ton of time at the hospital trying to figure out what was going on with him. And at a certain point, I ran out of vacation time, ran out of sick time, had a mountain of hospital bills piling up, and I needed to leave my wife and my baby in the hospital to go back to a cubicle and trade time for money. And I made my wife a promise when I left. I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to find a way to build us a business that gives us the income we want without trading time for money. And started out on my real estate journey. And not too many people know this, but I actually thought it was going to be through multifamily apartments. And so I started going to meetups. I hired a mentor. I joined some coaching programs by some very, very successful apartment investors. I'm talking they're owning thousands of units across the country. And I learned a ton. But after 2 years, I really wasn't getting any traction. And so I met another gentleman back in 2017 in a mastermind group that was doing short-term rentals. And he was telling me about all the money he was making from these properties that he didn't even own. And I asked him to show me his books because I didn't believe him, because he was telling me he was making like $2,000 a month on this stuff. And he was. He was doing now what we know now is rental arbitrage. That wasn't really a big thing back then. And so the concept of short-term rentals made sense to me. I didn't like the way he was doing it, where he was renting it and re-renting it and not telling the owners what he was doing, and it just felt kind of shady. But the concept of renting a property by the night instead of by the year and charging a premium for that, it made sense for me. It clicked. So I cashed out my 401k, got a 0% interest credit card, went and bought our first rental property, a little 2-bedroom condo up in the mountains in New Hampshire. Put everything I had into that thing, renovated it with my old man, and just like this guy said, you know, within a month of opening it, we were cash flowing around $1,500 a month.
Wow.
And I was like, this is the coolest investment vehicle possible. Like, I get paid to own a vacation house that I can use every once in a while, and it brings in cash flow. But I needed to replace 15 grand, not 1,500 a month. And so I scaled it up eventually by managing properties for other people, which is how I got introduced to my now partners on a bunch of our hotels up here, because I was managing a property for one of them. And I had spent about a year and a half to get my portfolio to 15 properties across 5 different states. And it was nuts. I was still working a full-time job, still side hustling as a photographer on the weekends to catch up on the medical bills, and visiting my kid in the hospital with my wife while building this business on the side. And I was beat, man. It was a long year and a half process to get to that point. And then I just started thinking, I'm like, man, I'm seeing all these small, you know, mom and pop hotels across New England. I'm like, I wonder if I could just get one of these hotels. And so I started talking to one of my owners about this and kind of planting the idea a little bit. We went and looked at a couple properties together, put in a couple offers. None of them really came to fruition for a variety of reasons. And then one day he brought me this deal and he was like, hey man, I think this is the one, and you want to come look at it with me and let me know if you think your systems would work at scale. And so we went, this is back in fall of 2019, went and checked out this property. It was in really rough shape, but the location was amazing. It was right on the beach, right on the ocean, really run down, but the location was absolutely incredible. And I said, yeah, man, I think this could definitely work. I assumed I could run it just like my short-term rentals with no staff and everything else, which we can talk about later. That didn't really happen. But I said, yeah, I could do it, but I don't want a management fee. I want equity. And, you know, let's figure out how to make this work. I'm fine, like busting my butt, but I really want to get equity. And I don't even really know why, but I just wanted I wanted a different way to do this. And I knew it was going to be a ton of work, and I was okay with that. And I was just getting ready to put in my notice at my W-2. So I was like, okay, my cash flow is okay for my STRs. Let's make a play for this. And so long story short, he agreed to it with one of his other partners. So they put up the money, and basically I had an earn out. So, you know, I had a note to them for my share of the equity that they had fronted to me. And so we went in, we acquired this property, we did a heavy renovation on it, and within a year and a half, you know, we doubled the value of that property. We were able to do a refi, get the capital out. I had officially earned my equity piece in that deal, and we still own that deal today. And that was, I mean, there were so many learning lessons in that first year and a half. I essentially made no money for a year and a half, but I was totally fine doing that because I was learning a ton, got my teeth kicked in a ton. But a lot of the principles I had learned years prior with all that multifamily training and commercial real estate really helped me navigate that world blended with all my short-term rental experience. So it was a hell of a journey. Had a ton of crazy stories in that first year and a half, but it worked out. We still own that hotel today. We actually just added a bunch more rooms to it, which should be done in about a month. And now we've got a few more. So yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, first of all, it's remarkable. I couldn't imagine doing photography on the weekend, running short-term rentals, still managing a full-time job. Like that I couldn't imagine.
It's a lot.
But you've dropped a lot of gems. I really don't even know where to start. But if I had to pick one thing to circle back to, it's just the sweat equity. You talked about how you didn't earn money for an entire year, but you were able to get yourself into an equity position. And I think when people start to look at ownership and they may not have a ton of money to put down up front, there are other ways to gain equity, and that's exactly what you did. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about how you can gain sweat equity, what that looks like. And it really hits home for both Adam and I, because for our deal and Paige, we're pretty much managing and operating the property. We are property managers, asset managers. There's a ton that we still need to learn, but this is essentially a way for us to keep cash flow, give ourselves a little bit of equity stake until we get the property stabilized. So I would love to hear more about sweat equity and what that looked like for you in that first year.
Yeah, so I mean, the key is if you put yourself in an investor's shoes, right? Now I'm on the other side of that, right? So now I'm in a very different place financially, whatever it's been 6 years later. People pitch me deals all the time, and they want to partner with me and do all these different things, and it's cool. Like, the bigger you go, the more opportunities you're going to attract. But at the end of the day, as an investor, yes, you want to believe in the project, you want to believe in the location, you want to believe in the business model, right? You know, boutique hotels in this market with this deal, like, this makes sense. But at the end of the day, they're really betting on you as the operator. Yeah. And so I had built in a lot of trust with these investors because I was already managing properties for them, and I had drastically outperformed the market. So, you know, I'll be forever grateful because they gave me an opportunity in the commercial world. But I had a pretty good track record with them. And again, I was running 15 properties across 5 different states while running a full-time job and outperforming the market. So I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that for context because in their eyes, like, damn, imagine if this kid could just focus on this full-time with one location. We're probably going to be all right, right? And so there's always this downside risk. And I also, like, put up collateral too. Like, we put a note with collateral for the rental property up in New Hampshire. Like, if it didn't work out, like, they were going to take that. So, like, it's not that I didn't have any skin in the game. Like, I had put some skin in the game that way to collateralize what they were going to front me. So it was fair on all fronts there, right? Yeah. So
we did that as well.
Yeah, and
it's crazy. They
right,
even
like,
collateralized
on yourself too, you know, and that's a key piece of it. So, like, if you have no experience in short-term rentals, you have no experience in hotels, and you want to go out there and raise money to do a deal, I would just say don't do that. You know, because at the end of the day, you're playing with other people's life savings. And to me, it doesn't feel ethical to do that. So you got to know what you're doing. If you don't have that, we could talk about that later, but it's like, I had a lot of experience. I had a lot of training in commercial real estate. I had a track record of success. So I had built up trust with this group based on a track record of working with me.
Yeah. And that makes a ton of sense. And I think why we've been able to attract investors is because, again, maybe we don't have credibility in years of runway in the hotel game, but we do in life, right? So again, I spent 20 years in professional services, consulting with Fortune 500 companies, lived overseas in Hong Kong, worked across APAC for years. My wife and I, both in tech, and built up a portfolio, 8 Airbnbs, some that we owned and operated, some that we did with others, but in 3-4 different states. So just like you, Mike, had to grow teams, systems, right? I've got a 7-year-old son, right? Like, we're wearing all these different hats, but to gain momentum and gain trust, right? We're not kind of coming out of nowhere. So anyways, I love that comment about be careful, you know, jumping from nothing to hotels. There are steps to this game, and I think it makes a ton of sense to start with short-term rentals. But maybe we can go there next. Again, people are hearing this podcast for the first time. Why didn't you continue why don't you have 100 Airbnbs? Like, why not just continue down a proven path and just scale with systems and teams? What was attractive fundamentally about moving into the commercial space?
Yeah, so I mean, if you think of it, and this is, I mean, you guys have been around me for a while now. I always ask, like, what is the goal? What are we trying to achieve here? And for me, I didn't get into this to get stupid rich and have yachts and fancy houses. Like, I got into it because I wanted to have time freedom for my son and my wife. So, like, I had achieved that. So it was like, okay, cool. Like, I could have stopped at the 15 STRs and just coasted. But I was like, what would be the next challenge? What would be the next thing that I would enjoy doing that I could play the long game and not need the cash flow right away to, like, figure this thing out? And I made a bunch of mistakes, and, you know, we had negotiated a small management fee to do it. Then once I realized that we were going to have to pivot business models and bring people in, I gave all of that money to the staff to make sure that we could stay afloat. So, you know, to me, the reason was the whole goal was time freedom. Now the next part was like, okay, how do I start to create generational wealth for my family? And commercial real estate is one of the greatest wealth builders that you can have because you have way more control over the valuation of the property, right? So if you're a listener and you have no experience with commercial real estate, let me just simplify how real estate is valued between single families and commercial real estate. Single family homes are valued based on comparable sales. So if you have a 3-bed, 2-bath house and it was built in 2005 and you've got another 3-bed, 2-bath house next door that was built right around the same time, regardless of how much they make as a short-term rental, they're going to be worth the same because they're based on comparable sales. But when you get into commercial real estate, they're valued as a business, and businesses are valued based on cash flow, right, or net operating income. So, you know, an average cap rate, let's just say, is 8%. So all that means is for every dollar I increase my profitability or my net operating income, I'm adding $12 of value to that property. So if you think of it, you know, I've done tons of trainings on this with examples. It's like a 20-room hotel. You raise the rates by 20% at this occupancy rate. Like, you can create $1 million in equity. I don't want to say easily, but simply by being a better operator. So the better operator you are, the bigger the reward and the bigger the valuation for you. So it gives you cash flow, but it gives you way more upside on the back end from an equity standpoint. Now, there's trade-offs because hotels, you need to be a good leader. If you're going to get in the hotel game, you cannot do everything yourself like you can when you're getting your STR started. You can create the listing. You can go out there and build it out if you want to. You can do the revenue management yourself. You can manage the cleaners yourself. You can communicate with guests yourself. You cannot do that at a hotel because there's not enough hours. And just a stat I throw around for context, for those of you that are short-term rental operators, you don't get a ton of phone calls. Your phone will ring if there's a problem at a property, but you don't get a ton of phone calls. The first month that we were fully open, and this continued, you know, ever since, the first month we opened, we received 500 inbound phone calls for that hotel. 500. So there,
That's insane.
it was not a big property. It was like 13 rooms. Mm-hmm. This isn't some 200-room behemoth hotel, right? Because people go to Google, they search for the hotel, and then they just call the hotel. That's just what most people do, right?
Yep.
So you get way more phone calls, right? I tried to manage them with third-party cleaners. That worked for about a year until they got burned out. When you're turning over 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, 20 rooms in a day, depending on the size of the property, it's a lot for those folks that are not used to having that level of volume in that short window to turn rooms over. So I had to learn how to build an in-house cleaning team, and then how to get an in-house cleaning manager, and then eventually get a general manager and, a head of maintenance. And you have to learn how to be a manager and a leader when you get into hotels. So a lot of the technical skills from short-term rentals translate into hotels, but you're playing a very different game when you get into the hotel space.
Yeah, I mean, that about sums up what we have already had to learn just in our 2 months of owning a hotel. And I'm sure we'll learn even more as the year goes on. But, you know, it brings me to another topic. This isn't something that you do by learning on YouTube University. That's how you crash and burn. And a mistake in a short-term rental investment looks a lot different than a mistake in a multi-million-dollar hotel. So with that being said, there may or may not be a community out there for us to lean into and get guidance from. Adam and I are great proponents of this community, that being BHS, where we took the leap. We got into a community of other operators, other owners, people who want to own hotels as well, and we made sure we avoided some mistakes. We learned from people who have done it before us, and we took some of that guidance to help with underwriting and finding deals and how to talk to owners and how to renovate properties and budgets, and the list goes on and on. So maybe you can speak about this great community that you've created that I think Adam and I wouldn't be quite where we are,
No.
not even half of where we are right now without it. But I think it's such a great resource to have out there.
A couple of things I'll say first. So for years, we ran short-term rental secrets. We still have that, really specializing in launching and scaling short-term rental businesses, particularly on the management and co-hosting side. And then I had a group above that was for our elite operators that had been in for a while. They had over, at least 20 properties with a GM, and they really wanted to scale it to the moon. So I started working with that group, kept it very small, between 20 and 30 people, very intimate with me, one-on-ones whenever they want. We go away 4 times a year for events. And a lot of those folks wanted to get into hotels. So I started teaching them how to get into hotels. And that was only for that group for like a year, maybe a year and a half. And then a lot of other people in the mastermind, the regular short-term rental mastermind, started posting about hotel deals that they were looking at. And so at a certain point, I was planning to keep that community very small because it's not for everybody as far as the hotel game. But at a certain point, I started seeing people putting in offers on these deals. And I'm like, all right, we got to expand this and just create another program specifically for hotels outside of our boardroom, because a lot of people were getting into deals that they were going to put themselves in really tough spots really quickly.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know at the beginning, right? And so we started putting that together. What I will say is, like, YouTube is great, ChatGPT is great, all of those things. I'll give you a simple example if this makes sense, right? Very different example, but 2 weeks ago, we got hit with a blizzard where I live up in Boston. It was like 2 feet of snow coming in. And on a Saturday, I have this little electric snowblower because I don't have a big driveway anymore. I live on the coast. We don't typically get a lot of snow, but we were getting 2 feet, and I kept my old, it's actually my father-in-law's, like, gas snowblower that's just a tank. And I hadn't run it for 2 years, and I couldn't get it to run. So I'm taking pictures of it, throwing it into ChatGPT, and it's getting me like 50% of the way there. Like, I have a general idea of what the issue is. It's bad gas. It's gummed up in the carburetors. Tell me why this isn't starting. And it's saying, yes, it's carburetors. I'm uploading pictures, but it keeps telling me that the carburetor is on the complete other side of the engine. And then finally, I call my dad, who's super handy. I'm showing him pictures. He goes, no, dude, carburetor's on that side. And it's behind that thing that you're looking at right here.
Oh, no.
Right. So again, like, the information's good, but it's not as good as having somebody that's been there, done that, and looking at your specific situation. So I use the phrase, I'm smart enough to be dangerous, right? Yeah. The information's good enough to be dangerous, but it's not going to get you over the line. And also, when it comes to doing a deal that's worth millions of dollars and going out and raising money from other folks, like, I want to be as well equipped as possible for that situation, which is why I've invested at this point well over $1 million in masterminds and private networking groups and all this stuff to continue to level up. But even looking at your case, right? You guys didn't know each other before BHS,
Nope.
right?
Nope.
Absolutely not.
You met in the community. You were both looking at deals, and then eventually it was like, hey, like, we've got similar values, like, we have complementary skill sets, like, this could work. And then here we go. Like, now you have this deal, and then you get the deal under contract, and it's like, hey, I won't name names, but other folks and other coaches in the community, like, hey, Joel, hey, Isaac, hey, Rashmi, can you look at this, and then look at this, and look at this, right? Mm-hmm. Like, having those second set of eyes and having that community around you of folks that have done it before, it's like having a crystal ball and being able to look around the corners. Like, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what problem is coming around that corner. I didn't know when I bought a hotel that I was going to have 500 inbound phone calls. I didn't know when I bought a high-end, boutique that somebody paying $400 to $600 a night is going to expect a GM on site that is going to cater to their every need, right? Like, I didn't know that stuff. I didn't know that my cleaners weren't going to be able to handle, in my mind, I'm like, it's not even a big hotel, right? I didn't know a lot of these things, and I learned them the hard way, right? but I still surrounded myself with people that were doing commercial real estate and some other things that could help, but nobody was teaching hotels back then. It was very different than Airbnb, where there's a lot of people willing to share information. Like, the hotel industry was not like that. Like, it just wasn't. So yeah, having a community of people around you that have done what you want to do, and they're willing to look over your shoulder, analyze your specific deal, not just some theory on YouTube about some other deal, like analyzing your numbers, analyzing your budget for your renovation, analyzing your term sheets from the bank. That's a very different ballgame, right? Typically, you're going to pay consultants a lot of money to do that because it's valuable.
Yep.
Right? We're doing a $22.5 million ground up development in the Outer Banks right now. Just the amount of fees for consultants and brokers and all these things, you're talking close to $1 million just in consulting, right? Because there's enough value there for that property. You don't want to just wing it. So that's what I would say on that. Like, just being in the right rooms, getting information from people that have done what you want to do. And I've said this from the beginning of, like, I share my perspective. You know, I'm on my 4th hotel deal now in 6 years. But there's other coaches and experts in that community that are way better at certain things than I am. So it's when you share that collective, when you get in that room, you're just leveraging the power of true mastermind. Like, that's what it is. Collective minds coming together to help you solve a problem. That's very different than just going to ChatGPT and it's like, hey, help me analyze this deal. Very different. I still use all the AI tools and they're great. But it's, in my opinion, it's not enough to get it over the line.
Right. Well, and again, you know, I'm not throwing around the term "you saved me" or "changed my life" lightly, but I mean, this is basically what's unfolding right now for me personally. Right. 18 months ago, I was let go. My entire team. I was at Autodesk. I was at a great tech company. Loved what I was doing there. And the entire division got let go. And so my wife and I kind of looked at each other. We took some time off. We had a little bit of severance, a little bit of savings. We had runway for a year. She decided to write a personal memoir and a book. She's actually just finished about kind of her life's journey and her, just kind of what she's learned and seen coming from Vietnam over to the States and through all these different chapters. But for me, I knew I was going to double down on real estate, but I didn't know in what. I had 8 Airbnbs. Okay, so I could go after, what would it look like if I doubled that or tripled that? And I think, Mike, you do a great job of getting people to focus on what's your freedom number? Like, what's the goal? What are we trying to do? And then all of a sudden, having 50 cleaners, 50 roofs, 50 ways that a thing could go wrong just felt like, I don't know, it felt messy. It felt harder than it needed to be. And focusing on one entity felt like the right thing to do. And I'd done some chemistry calls with some other folks out there, right? Rich Summers has got a group, Blake Daly, a few others. We're kind of posting some content or just kind of new to this space of, hey, this thing's kind of emerging. A lot of people that are very successful in short-term rentals seem to be kind of graduating into hotels. And again, I just felt an immediate connection, I think, to you because of your story about your son, about what you're trying to use this wealth for, and truly to launch other people, help other people achieve what you achieved. And you helped me because I thought, for sure, I'm out here in the West Coast. I'm a town called Lafayette, just outside the Bay Area. I thought, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be reasonable. I'm going to buy something that's within 2 hours, maybe 3 hours driving distance. So maybe that's Lake Tahoe, maybe that's Sonoma or Napa, right? We've got some nice things around here. And I was bringing, my deal, I was working on it, working my ass off, every day. This is all I'm doing, 10, 12 hours a day, trying to manipulate this thing into a shape. I'm going to will my way into this deal. It just ended up being too expensive. I remember it was $3.3 million in Nevada City, and it had 8 doors, 8 keys. I'm like, you even showed up in one of the calls and just go, man, you need 3 or 4 things to break right for this thing to kind of work, but you need one thing to go wrong, and you could be the innkeeper. And as counterintuitive as that is in this game, it's almost like going bigger, being a little bit more bold, but then surrounding yourself with great people. It feels like that's the recipe for success here. So anyways, I just want to say
there is a
thank
sweet
you.
Spot too. No, because that's a great point. Adam, and I've said this for a while, like the biggest mistake I've seen people make going from STRs to hotels is they go too small in their first one.
Yeah.
There is a sweet spot that I've played in for a while, and I've stretched that now. Like our biggest one's 57 rooms. I think you could probably go up to 80, maybe 100. But when you start looking at these little, 5, 10, even 15 to 20 rooms, if they're not generating at least $1 million in revenue, you're going to be buying yourself a job. Because just based on expense ratios and what you're going to need to get the deal done with how much debt costs now, like you're not going to have the budget to have a team. So you will be buying yourself a job, which is what nobody wants when they're getting into real estate. The whole point of real estate is to create financial freedom. So you have to do a deal that's big enough, even if it feels scary. Otherwise, you're just buying yourself a job. And I'd honestly rather see somebody go do 2 or 3 STR deals that are killer deals than go buy a hotel that's too small, because it's not gonna work out well for you, and nobody's gonna want to buy it on the back end.
Yeah. And Micah, that was kind of your thing as well, right? I mean, you were shopping, but in a different state, started nationally, then kind of went to Texas, Arizona, and he found something, but it was too big, right? So then it's like, okay, what do I do now? I think I got one, but it's scaring the shit out of me.
Yeah, and I'll kind of pivot to like mindset a little bit, because before this deal that we currently purchased, I was looking at smaller deals as well, 12, 14 keys, because that's what felt safe. I was like, oh, it's only $1 million, $1.5 million. I can do that alone. I don't need any help. I think I have enough capital on the side where I can make that work. And kind of the same thing, like just being told by coaches, like, this isn't the deal that you want, or like you need to make sure you got enough like dry powder on the side. So I think it was you, Sjogren, you said, one $10,000 expense that you weren't expecting causes you to not make money for the entire year. And again, this is not why we're getting into commercial real estate. So it was a mindset thing. I had to think a little bit bigger. I started calling, and yeah, we came across this 50 key hotel for $3.3 million, and I was scared out of my mind, to say the least. And talked to a few coaches, and it was actually one of the coaches that recommended that Adam and I, who started as accountability partners, actually partner on this deal. And that came into fruition, and here we are today. But I think a lot of it for me, and I'm sure many others, they start with things that they can manage on their own, because we're so used to being the cleaner, the general manager, the ops person for short-term rentals. But that's just not the play in commercial real estate. And there's so much room for multiple people to eat off the bone. You don't have to do everything by yourself. So just having that mindset shift really helped me understand that if you make this a team sport, you can get a lot further. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you got to go with other people. And that's what we're learning day in and day out. And can't say enough about the BHS community and the coaches, because this is something that, again, I would never understand if it wasn't for the community.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys did the work, right? And that's the best part. And the listeners are going to get to hear that over the course of this series with you guys, which is super excited for them. And like I tell everybody, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but it's worth it. You got to stick with it long enough to see it through. I think that's the second thing that people don't realize is these deals are getting into commercial. It can take a lot longer than residential. It might take you 6, 9, 12, 18 months to get a deal, but that one deal could change your whole life. Yeah. That one deal could literally retire you from one. So we were talking offline about this of, why did I go from the STRs to the hotels? And to me, it just got to a point where it's like, okay, a lot of folks in real estate, I call them like the infantry, where they're out there with shotguns, just like shooting and just taking down as many deals as they can, where I'm just constantly looking and waiting. I haven't bought a deal since 2022. I've been waiting for the right deal.
Patient.
And then this deal comes, and I'm acting more like a sniper, where I'm just waiting for that one right deal that I'm going to take down that's going to have a big leap in cash flow and equity for myself and the investors, instead of just taking down 15 deals or 2, 3, 4 deals a year. It's like that works for some people, but the whole reason I got into this was for time freedom. So like
Yeah.
my daughter just turned 2. My son's going to be 10 pretty soon. I've got like 8 years left with both of them under my roof. Like I'm financially like, okay, great. What's another 100 grand, 200 grand, $500,000 like in cash flow? Like it's not going to materially impact my lifestyle. And I would much rather spend more time with my kids than to just go make some more bucks. So like at the beginning, yes, you got to set yourself up for that, floor of like financial stability. And then in my opinion, anything over and above that's just gravy. At least for me. Like again, I do have nice things. I have a beautiful home, I've got cars, I've got all that crap. But none of that, I would trade all of that for more time with the kids. Like I don't trade time for money anymore. I leverage time and money for my kids and my wife. Like even today, I put it up on my story. Like my daughter was running around my office. Like that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I've got multiple companies, but I've got great people involved in all those companies that are moving the needle forward. So I use this analogy a lot, where at the beginning, it's like this trajectory of going from the player to the coach to the owner to the like shareholder, really player, coach, CEO, owner. Like at the beginning, you're the player. You're the one on the field doing everything, figuring it out. Like you are working your face off. Then eventually you become the coach, where you start hiring people and coaching them on how to do the things that you've been doing. And then eventually you become the CEO, where you have other coaches underneath you that are running the team underneath them. And then eventually you get into the owner's box, where you're just hiring really good CEOs and coaches that are running everything for you. That's where you get the actual time freedom. But it doesn't go from player to owner on day one. It's this progression, and there's different skills that you acquire along that journey. Because if you just got thrown in the owner's box or even the CEO box on day one and had a team of 30 to 50 people to manage, you'd fail because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You haven't been there. So like it's sequential, and each one leads to the next one.
Oh, I love this, man. I love this, and you remind me that I get to coach my son's baseball team at 4:00 today. That just wouldn't have been possible had I had a corporate job. I'm getting to show up in different ways with my family because I have some amount of time freedom, right? I get to choose when I work. I'm very much still the player right now, so we are earning everything, but thinking about how to advance and climb the chain. But maybe this is a good point to maybe end today's episode on. Again, I want to be respectful of time. And audience, if you guys are cool with it, Mike said he'd be even willing to come back. So we'd love to have you on periodically to keep hearing about some of your lessons, some of the pitfalls, some of the mistakes. Again, just to impart as much wisdom, inspiration to people that are looking at this chasm. Can I make this jump? Or just people that want to maybe invest in the space as well, right? That like the asset class, but don't want to be landlords themselves. So I think there's a couple different audiences probably tuning into this. But, you mentioned about kind of building great teams, building CEOs. I would be remiss if, even I think when we started talking about, could we do something like this together? Part of your origin story is back with like Riley and Petsy, and not when you had, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on software and ads and a huge machine, right? I mean, you kind of built a mini empire at this point in time. But I'm thinking back to when the first time I got to meet you in Nashville. Micah and I went to STR WealthCon, great event. Thousands of people there kind of learning, getting educated. By the way, the Boutique Hotel track was the most popular track of any there. I don't think that was random. But I'm thinking about two moments in particular. One, you're on stage with your son. Again, I'm almost like tearing up thinking about how amazing that was. And then I'm also thinking about the after party with you and Riley and Petsy. What did those moments mean for you, man?
It was like a full circle moment for sure. I got into real estate because my son, right? And I'm very fortunate now that he's perfectly healthy. He's an athlete. He plays multiple sports. Just an amazing kid. But having him at each event, we had 4 of them, right? And at every event, a lot of the talks that I would do would be around mindset, right? Because you gotta level that up as you go through this journey. And I would always share kind of like where he was at and how I was doing everything I could to impart a lot of that on him. And it was just really cool to see, from year one, sharing pictures of his journey where he was super shy, always very uncomfortable around people in the public. And then the last year, he's on stage with me in front of over 2,000 people, like talking on the microphone, sharing his YouTube channel that has over 200 subs that he films and edits and does all this stuff himself. It was just a really cool moment to be able to share that with my son. And also, you know, my wife, my daughter, my mom was actually at the last one, and my mother-in-law were there helping with the kids. So that was really cool for them, you know, because they see me doing stuff, but they're not typically like at these big events. So it was a really cool moment when they first got there, going up the escalator, and there's a 40-foot banner with me and Bill and Cody Sanchez and Pace and all this stuff hanging on the Music City Center. And I just could see my son like look up at it, and it was just like, wow, my dad's pretty cool. So like for me, that was the coolest part of the whole event. Just seeing my family get to see that piece. So. But yeah, I mean, now seeing, same thing with you guys, right? Going from everything that you went through to get this first deal. And then now, you know, you guys are in the spotlight with this podcast and you're helping out a ton of people in the community. And it's like, to me, the whole point of like the coaching, and again, I'm not knocking any other coaches or whatever, but like my whole goal was like, this is not a me thing. This is like a community thing where we just help each other grow. And my job is to pull people up and then eventually, you know, put them in the spotlight. Like this isn't like the Mike Sjogren brand. It's not, you know, Mike Sjogren secrets. It's like short-term rental secrets, boutique hotel secrets. It's the boardroom. It's about the community and the people involved in the community. It's not me, right? And creating that collective has been one of the most fulfilling things I've done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm so happy to be a part of this community, and I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm even more excited for people to be able to like watch in retro or listen in retrospect, like everything that has happened from the conception of the podcast to LOI to PSA. We've had stories where we lost a $2 million investor, stories where we found the bank that would finance our deal after talking to 62 banks. So I think people will really get to see a lot of what it takes and what we personally went through as it came down to purchasing and acquiring our first boutique hotel. So couldn't be happier to be a part of this community and share our story.
Yeah, and if you stop down in Page, Arizona, Micah is kind of semi-famous. He goes into the gas station. People are throwing up peace signs. So we got a little content creator on our hands. So remember us when we were under 100 subs, brother, and we were nervous to do this. But I think, again, just like anything else, man, it's about reps. You know, more quantity leads to more quality. And so I think this is just amazing to be doing this with you, Micah, with learning from you, Mike. So just appreciate, again, you creating a space, right, where questions can be asked, guidance can be given, and then people can lift each other up. You know, I always love that kind of metaphor of, going up a mountain. Someone's almost always ahead of you, right? But do they have a hand kind of, are they lending a hand back? And even though Mike and I are going from 0 to 1, there are a lot of people at 0. And again, sometimes it's, I look at people like you and go, man, he's got it all figured out. He's got 4 hotels. Like he's in escape velocity. He's on Mars now, dude. So anyways, that's, I think what's beautiful is every personality, every experience kind of bringing them together. That's just where the magic is, man. So thank you to you both. Again, I know we got to get out of here, but wanted to get this first episode, the inaugural official Boutique Hotel Secrets podcast in the books. There will be many, many more. So thank you again for tuning in, to listening to our story. Hit us up. Again, if you want to learn more, either about the BHS community, you just got questions, you got ideas about topics, about guests. What do you want to learn? We're certainly open to your input as we shape and mold this show over time. But for today, I think this is a good place to stop. Any final words of wisdom, parting thoughts from either of you guys?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, well, first
That's
off,
it then.
Thanks for having me
go.
on. I was just going to say thanks for having me on. And if any of the listeners want to connect with me, I'm an open book. You can find me on Instagram at mike.sjogren. It's SJOGREN. And I'll definitely be back. We can dive into some more stuff. There's plenty of stuff we can cover. But I'm excited for this, man. This is something that I've wanted to get going for a while, and then you guys brought it up to me, and I'm like, take it and run with it, boys. You've earned your stripes. You've got your deal. You're working through it, and I'm happy to add context wherever I can. So appreciate you guys for having me on.
I love it. Well, thank you. And yeah, I think we've got 20 plus in the hopper right now. So we'll probably be unloading kind of a batch, season 1 of Stranger Things, Boutique Hotel Edition coming your way. But absolutely. So thank you again for this great first episode and for episodes to come. And once again, certainly for me, I feel like for Micah, other students, by the way, Anna just got under contract on her first hotel.
Nice.
So there are real deals happening in this community, literally changing lives, So thank you, Mike, for everything that you've done to create this. And yeah, thank you again for your time. Okay, gang, with that, that's the pod. So we're out of here. Catch you on the next one.